After the Great War between fairies and demons, in order to preserve the fairy world, the emperor proposed to choose a fairy to be the demon's concubine. As soon as the words were given, the entire fairy world immediately rose up. The fairies were all confused and afraid. The other fairies quickly married their lovers on the day of the lunar month, hoping to avoid the fate of being sent to the demon world. As for me, who had been in love with the god of war for thousands of years, he rejected my proposal. You rejected me only because Tien Thatch was affiliated with you. I am Lu Nuyen. I was reluctant and went to see him, but when I arrived, the scene before my eyes made me cold and devoted. Lu Nuyen obediently crouched in Lam Tram's arms. His eyes looked at me with pride. I clenched my fist and angrily questioned. I fought side by side with you. Nam Trin fought in the north. Didn't you say you only loved me in this life? Lam Tram seemed impatient again. Gently patting Lu Nuyen, he softly said, Nuyen's immortal body is weak. If she is sent to the demon world, how can she still live? I couldn't believe it. My voice choked up and I asked again. So what if the person chosen is me? Lam Tram paused briefly and then calmly replied. How could there be such a coincidence? I just wanted to help like Yin. If you were chosen, you have high magic power and could not die. Then, on the right day, Lam Tram and Lu like Yin got married. I was put on a small palanquin by Tien Dia and taken to the demon world. The next time I saw Lam Tram again, I was sitting in the lap of Demon Lord Wei On, becoming the demon queen, his most favored. Lam Tram's face turned pale. He went crazy killing, creating a bloody path just to stand in front of the demon lord, coldly demanding to return my wife to me. Everywhere in the fairy world there are red silk teeth. Joyful music and fireworks echo endlessly. For thousands of years, the fairy world has never been this bustling. But despite all the excitement, no fairies volunteered to enter the demon world. They practiced hard. Fai Tang became an immortal not to be sent to that dark, desolate place filled with the smell of blood. To avoid being chosen by heaven and earth, the fairies take turns marrying their lovers. I did not show my emotions, just quietly walked past the temple and walked to the door of the palace of the war god Lam Tram. I pushed the door open, raised my chin, and coldly called, Lam Tram, come out. But Lam Tram did not come out. He alone held the hand of a soft, slender fairy, carefully helping her out. I recognized her as Lu Nuyen that day when I and Lam Tram went to the human world to wipe out demons on the road. Passing by a green tea tree, she was transformed from that tea tree. She reached out her slender hands to grasp Lam Tram's shirt. Her eyes filled with tears, her weak voice rang out. Sir, can you take me away? Lam Tram immediately took her back to the immortal world and helped her practice immortality. But she was born with no natural qualifications and had to be forced by Lam Tram to use the heavenly spirit and earth treasure to become a fairy, and is also the fairy with the weakest fairy power. Lam Tram told me, Nuyen is weak and obedient. I'm afraid she will be bullied outside, so let her be my fairy servant. At that moment I had a bad feeling. A man and a woman are together day and night. In this world, is there any love so pure? I hesitated for a moment, then said, Then why not let her be my fairy maid? I will take care of her. Lu Nuyen's eyes immediately turned red. She knelt down in front of me, bowed her head, and sobbed out a plea. Please, please let me stay with you, sir. If I can't be with you, it's better for me to spare you death. After saying that, she raised her hand to destroy her immortal roots. Lam Tram took the anger to the extreme, pointed his finger at me, and shouted, Nin Swang, you, look at this ugly appearance of yours. There is not even a bit of tolerance. Why is Nuyen so weak? Does it make you angry? Do you have to force her to the end? Lam Tram's words were as sharp as 10,000 arrows, piercing straight into my heart. The pain felt like it was stabbing me in the chest, making me unable to speak. I was born as someone who refused to give up. No matter how much I was hurt, I never shed a tear. Just quietly watched Lam Tram hug Lu like Yin from the ground. The two of them were so intimate that it was dazzling. Has Lam Tram forgotten? You forgot that we have loved each other for 1,000 years. He forgot that we were flying together. At that time, he was just a small general of the world, and I had joined him on the battlefield many times, close to life and death. He died and came back to life 9 times. Every time I saved my life, It was because I risked my life to save him. There are 327 scars on my body, all because of him. I have walked with you through blood and fire, watching you grow from a small general into a mighty and famous god of war. But today, he said that I was petty, narrow-minded, and had an ugly appearance. But I can't let him go. He is the person I have loved for thousands of years. I remember very clearly that year, in the middle of a bloody battlefield. I carried him out from the pile of corpses. At that time, he only had one breath left. Each drop of his tears fell down my neck, his voice hoarse. Nin Swang, I will love you until heaven and earth fall apart. His whole body was full of injuries. He had no strength to move. He could only breathe weakly. Lam Tram used all his last bit of fairy power to heal me. I was startled and quickly shook my head. Don't waste your fairy power on me. Save it to protect your heart. But Lam Tram only smiled weakly. You are my woman. Even if I die here, I will not let you suffer any pain. I looked towards Lam Tram and Lu like Yin, my eyes filled with emptiness. Since when has he changed? Was it from the moment Lu knew Yin clung to the hem of his shirt? Why do they look so intimate? I opened my mouth hoarsely. Lam Tram, let's get married. He avoided my eyes, felt a little guilty, raised his hand to touch the bridge of his nose, and softly explained, now is not the time. I smiled coldly. So when is the time? He was silent. I continued to ask, do you know that Tianjia is letting Fairy marry the devil? Lam Tram nodded. Lu Nuyin panicked, threw herself into his arms, sobbing. Sir, I don't want to go to the demon world. I'm so weak, if I go there I will definitely die. Lam Tram instinctively patted her back and gently reassured her. I won't let you get along. The image of two people hugging each other is extremely dazzling. If it were an outsider looking in, they would certainly appreciate that their relationship is deep and meaningful. But for me, this scene is so painful that it makes me suffocate. I still tried to flash a sarcastic smile. What guarantee do you have? Lam Tram, do you intend to rebel against Tianjia? Or do you intend to become friends with Lu like Yin? Lam Tram's movement stiffened. Being guessed by me, he immediately got angry and shouted angrily. Nin Swang, enough. I laughed, feeling so pitiful. So what about me? I looked at him, my eyes filled with sadness. Lam Tram, we've been together for thousands of years, but now you say you want to marry someone else. Lam Tram looked apologetic, his tone softened, softly advising. Nin Swang, I became friends with Nu Yin just to protect her, to avoid her being forced to get along. I still love her. Can't you give in to Nu Yin a little? Do you have to become friends with me right now? We've been together like this for thousands of years. My face gradually turned pale. So what if the person chosen to get along with is me? So what? Lam Tram without hesitation, calmly replied. No way. I laughed coldly. Before coming to find Lam Tram, I met the angel of Tianjia at Zhao Tri. Fairy Tran, full of worry, pulled me back and urgently said, Ning Suang Fairy, heaven and earth have decided to take her to get along. Quickly go find Lam Tram Dai Nan and quickly become friends with him. Ma Tun is very scary. At that time, I was stunned. Can't believe my ears. Why me? The fairy can only advise me to quickly get married with Lam Tram, because Tianjia has never separated married couples. I felt uneasy, trying to muster up the courage to open my mouth. Lam Tram, heaven and earth have chosen me to get along with. Lam Tram laughed sarcastically. Heaven and earth chose her to get along with her? A cold, strong person who only knows how to kill like her. Did she come to the demon world to make friends or make enemies? My whole body seemed to lose strength. I staggered and almost fell. In Lam Tram's eyes, am I such a person? I tried to keep my voice calm, but it still trembled. Why should I lie to you? After all, in your eyes, am I not even as good as a clever person like Lu Nuyin? Anger and resentment flared up. I pulled out my sword. The tip of the sword pointed straight at Lu Nuyin, my voice filled with hatred. If I kill her today, what will you do? Lu Nuyin turned her head, her eyes flashing with satisfaction. But in the next moment, she suddenly rushed straight into the tip of my sword. Using all her fairy power, she severed her own meridians. Fresh blood flowed from the corner of her lips, and she weakly said, Sister Nin Suang, I don't know why you hate me so much. I became friends with Lam Tram Dai Nin just to avoid being chosen to get along. If I go to the demon world, I will die. But you don't want to let me go. Even my only way to live, you want to take away." She trembled, sobbed, her voice filled with plaintiveness. "I know I come from a lowly background. I can't compare to you. And I can't compare to the time you spent with Lam Tram Dinan. But my feelings for Dinan are real. I'm willing to use my life to prove it." Having said that, she raised her teary eyes and glanced at Lam Tram one last time. "Lord, maybe I shouldn't have become a fairy." She weakly raised her hand, pouring the last bit of spiritual energy into Lam Tram's body. "When I turn into a green tea flower, please bury me by the lake in front of your window, so I can see you every day. Is that okay?" That sentence was like a fatal knife, causing Lam Tram to completely panic. He raised his head, his eyes looked at me full of hatred, his voice was cold and angrily roared, "Fuck off." Without hesitation, he hugged Lu Nuyen and quickly ran into the palace. As he passed me, he forcefully pushed me aside. I stumbled and fell to the ground, my empty hand on the cold stone floor, my whole body numb. The heart also followed and broke. Looking at Lam Tram's back, I feel like my heart has been beating for him for thousands of years. Now each beat is slowly dying. Lam Tram stopped right in front of the main hall, turned to look at me. His voice was cold, without any emotion. "Nin Suang, you don't need to get into trouble because you want to chase Nuyen away. Even if heaven and earth really chose you to get along, that is also your fate. You are a fairy, a person of Tien Gioi. You have to shoulder the responsibility." I laughed, a smile full of bitterness. "So what about Lu Nuyen?" Lam Tram frowned. His voice was softer, even filled with love. "Nuyen is not originally from the fairy world. It was I who stubbornly helped her become a fairy. I have the responsibility to protect her." Having finished speaking, he turned around and closed the electric door tightly. That door not only blocks the distance between us and him, but also closes our past. Through the door, we saw Lam Tram put Lu Nuyen on the bed, then bent down and placed his lips on her lips, using spiritual energy to heal the destroyed meridians. I laughed out loud, laughed until it hurt, laughed until I couldn't breathe. Great plan, really great. Slowly standing up, I didn't look back. Step by step, I left Lam Tram's palace. Every step is a part of the feelings for him dissipated. When I stepped out of the palace door, I reached out to dry my tears, and at the same time let go of Lam Tram completely. 3 days later, Lam Tram officially announced that he and his close maid, Lu Nuyen, had formed Dao Lu. That news quickly spread throughout the fairy world. The fairies who met me on the road had pity in their eyes. At the same time, I was summoned by the Heavenly Emperor. Returning to the main hall, I raised my head to look up at Tienda. Looking at me, my eyes clearly showed dissatisfaction. "Ning Suang, I know that you have been fighting for the immortal world for many years. I intentionally let the fairy messenger reveal the news to you early and also wanted to give you a chance. You and Lam Tram have been together for thousands of years. As long as you two get married, I will choose someone else." I laughed, slowly bowed my head, then stood up and calmly said, "Heavenly Emperor, I am a part of the immortal world. Protecting the immortal world is my responsibility. Getting along with the Demon King is what I should do." By the end of the sentence, my voice was a bit hoarse, but each word was still as solid as a nail. "Tien, decide. If you've made up your mind, then go ahead." After the person chosen to get married was officially confirmed, the wave of getting married in the fairy world finally ended. Lam Tram and Lu Nuyen became the last pair of Tien Lu to form Dao Lu. During this time, he was taken to the demon world. The small palanquin slowly glided through the sky above Lam Tram's palace. The speed is not fast, but it is like a knife cutting into my heart. I hesitated a bit, but finally lifted the palanquin's curtain and looked down below. In the main hall, people were bustling. Lam Tram and Lu Nuyen put on red clothes and stood in front of the palace. But strangely, even though it's now, they still haven't worshipped the temple. The moment the palanquin left the palace, we vaguely heard Lam Tram's voice. "Where's Nin Suang? Why didn't she come?" The whole hall was in silence. No one spoke. Only eyes. Confused, looking towards him, Lam Tram seemed to realize something, but he did not dare to believe it. He turned his head, his eyes scanning each person present at the wedding, as if looking for a familiar figure. But he only saw quiet, tense faces, dry throats, and slightly shaky voices. "Nin Suang, why didn't she come? She's angry with me." The angel of heaven and earth seemed dissatisfied, pouted, looked at him coldly, and said, "Why are you looking for Nin Swang? Nin Swang has already gone to hell." Lam Tram was stunned on the spot. He just stood there, as if he couldn't digest those words. It wasn't until Lu Nu Yin gently pulled the hem of his shirt that he woke up, but he still didn't believe it, muttering to himself as if he wanted to fool himself. "How could it be Nin Swang? You guys are kidding me, right? I told you, getting married to Nu Yin was just to protect her." Lu Nu Yin was a little panicked and quickly said, "Lam Tram, worship the road." Lam Tram took a deep breath, trying to calm down. He smiled faintly, his voice somewhat forced. "She was just angry, so she didn't come. I don't care how angry she is. Even if she came to beg me, I still wouldn't forgive her." Lu Nu Yin breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to worship with Lam Tram. "I don't know what's going on in Lam Tram's palace. My palanquin stopped at the border of the demon world. From here, people from the demon world came to receive me and lift my palanquin. The float moved through layers of thick, dark clouds, finally stopping in front of the door of Ma Tun's palace. The palanquin curtain was lifted. A pale hand, with clear bones, gently lifted the curtain. I instinctively raised my head to look. The first thing that caught my eye was a pair of blood-red eyes. The voice, carrying a bit of joy but still coldly, rang out. "Nin Swang, you finally arrived." The whole person stiffened. "Why you?" "You." In front of me, the demon lord of the demon world is Wei Ying, the junior brother whom I fought side by side thousands of years ago. That year, Lam Tram and I were both sword cultivators. And Wei On is our youngest junior brother. He has no talent for cultivation, but he always follows me. When I ascended to become an immortal, because I was not at ease about him, I left a little aura to protect him. From then on, I always paid attention to those cultivators who ascended, but I never saw his name on the list. I used to think that maybe he didn't have enough qualifications to become a fairy. Unexpectedly, he became a ghost again. Wei Ying looked at me in my crimson outfit, his eyes filled with joy, as if happiness wanted to engulf me. He carefully took my hand and gently helped me step out of the palanquin. I quickly walked up to him and asked worriedly, "When did you become possessed? Did someone bully you?" My concerned eyes made Wei On sigh softly, as if he was enjoying this moment. He looked at me fascinated and laughed lightly. "Senior sister, she still hasn't changed at all." Right after that, he hugged me up. I reflexively wrapped my arms around his neck. He bowed his head, gently placed a kiss on my cheek, then carried me into the main hall. Wei Ying sat down in the most powerful chair, and I sat in his lap. His eyes from beginning to end never left me. It was so hot that I didn't dare look straight. I could only avoid that gaze. "Is someone bullying you?" I asked softly again. Wei On curled her lips. Her tone was gentle but dark. "Not at all," he smiled. His eyes suddenly became deep, carrying stubbornness and madness. "I don't have the qualifications to become a fairy. If I don't become a demon, even if I practice for another 10,000 years, I won't be able to see her again, senior sister. Mortals have birth, old age, sickness, and death, but I just need to be able to meet her. Don't talk about becoming a demon. Even if I become a ghost, star, or animal, I'm still willing." My hand tightened around the hem of his shirt. Throat tight. Did Wei Ying become a ghost because of me? I never thought someone could love me so deeply. Furthermore, to step from the path of cultivating immortals to cultivating demons, it is not simply a matter of changing the path of cultivation, but of having to break the inner altar, step all the immortal energy out of the meridians, and completely return to being immortal. After that, he had to endure terrible pain to practice magic. That price is not something everyone can bear. I lowered my voice and asked tremblingly, "Does it hurt?" Wei On was stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing. Even though he has become a ghost, his smile is still as bright as ever. He clenched his hands that were clinging to the hem of his shirt and said in a low voice, "It doesn't hurt at all." His eyes darkened and he whispered softly, "Nin Swang, I just hate that I didn't become demon venerable sooner. I know that over the years you have been bullied by Lam Tram and bullied by that Tra Tin woman. If I had known that earlier, I would have killed him a long time ago." Hearing the name Lam Tram, his image in my memory suddenly becomes strange. It seems like the entire past between you and me has been left behind in the fairy world. I don't speak up. Wei On didn't care either. His tone was still gentle like the spring breeze. "Nin Swang, you can rest assured. As long as you are with me, I will not violate the fairy world. Initially, I only wanted to meet her once, but they did not let me enter the fairy world. I just hid it. His voice was light, as if he was just recounting an unimportant story. Turns out, the reason why the demon clan attacked the fairy world was because of me. For a moment, I couldn't react. Wei Ying, in my heart, is always a junior brother who needs my protection. But thousands of years later, when we met again, he had become a grown man, loving me so fiercely that it almost made me suffocate. For the first time in my life, I feel such strong and steadfast love. The last feelings I had for Lam Tram also completely disappeared. That's okay. Well, let's keep it that way. If being with Wei Ying can exchange for the peace of the 6 worlds and can also make him happy, then I will try to learn to love him. I was brought to the demon world by heaven and earth in a small palanquin, but Wei Ying stubbornly wanted to give me the most solemn wedding ceremony. Thus, the news of demonic Master Wei Ying's infatuation with me spread throughout the 6 worlds. Everyone knew that Ma Tun Wei Ying was deeply in love with Fairy Tu Nin Suang, who was sent by the fairy world to get along. In order to organize a grand wedding for me, he ordered the entire demon clan to plant almond flowers in the desolate demon world. The wedding dress I wore was woven from precious silk, handmade by mermaids in Donghai. Even the fairy world only has ba-thuok of this type of fabric. Every day, we can eat exquisite dishes prepared by the best Tian Fu himself in the world. Even the carriage I use is transformed by Wei Ying's relatives to take me anywhere. The fairies once refused to mingle with the demon world because of fear. Wei An killed too much. This is such regret that my eyes turn red. If they had known that marrying Wei Ying would bring them such honor and favor, they would have volunteered to come here. It wouldn't have been my turn. One day, while I was in the palace, I suddenly heard a commotion outside. I asked the servant and found out that recently many fairies from the fairy world secretly ran to the demon world, wanting to meet Wei An. After all, everyone knows that the previous demon venerable had 30-something concubines and countless mistresses. Compared to living in the world with a lowly status, they would rather come here to be the demon son's concubine, enjoying the glory like those people. Before even Wei An's face could be seen, he was knocked unconscious by his trusted friend and was immediately returned to the immortal realm. The guard standing in front of the gate of the immortal realm coldly announced, "The demon venerable said that the only Ma-Fi of the demon realm is Lord Nin Suang. If there is anyone from the immortal realm who dares to enter here, kill without mercy." The cold, murderous aura emanating from the demon realm guards made the little generals defending the immortal realm tremble and hastily pulled the expelled fairies back. I didn't expect that so much would happen in just a few short months. But we ourselves don't care about those things. Every day, we are surrounded by Wei Ying. Sometimes I teach him how to practice swordplay, sometimes I play chess with him. A quiet but happy life. Wei An is our best landing spot. In a world of thousands of years of killing, I have long been tired of the struggles there. Even Lam Tram once said that a strong and tough woman like me did not deserve to be protected. But An is different. He sees me as a normal woman who loves and protects me. He saw the scars on her body. Her red eyes softly asked, "Does it hurt?" He searches throughout the 6 realms for the best medicinal herbs, just to heal each of my wounds. Wei An said pettily, "I don't want you to have any more wounds on your body because of Lam Tram. I want you to have only me in your heart." I laughed, not teasing him yet, "You childish thing." Wei An suddenly rolled over on the bed, his clear eyes like a pitiful puppy looking at me. "But do you like me?" I looked at him gently, without saying a word. Even though I can't say I love him yet, Wei An really captured my heart little by little. Until a month later, the fairy world suddenly declared war on the demon world. No, not the immortal world, but the war god Lam Tram. One person and one sword alone rushed into the demon world. He rushed straight into the demon clan's forbidden area, his voice hoarse. "Nin Suang, head of Wei An's servant." Laughing, "What do you want to see, our Ma-Fi?" Lam Tram's eyes were bloodshot. His aura was chaotic. He was almost about to disappear into a demon. He shouted loudly, "Who is your Ma-Fi?" The surrounding demon clan burst out laughing. "Who else but our master Nin Suang? He is the fairy that heaven and earth personally brought to get married." "What's wrong? Do you regret it?" It turns out that the fairy world is not that trustworthy. If you dare to call yourself a fairy, You're not as good as us demon clan. Always dare to love, dare to hate. The fairy power on Lamb Tram's body exploded, sending the surrounding demons flying. He drew his sword, and without hesitation rushed straight into the center of the demon palace. 3 days and 3 nights without stopping, without sleep, without eating or drinking. He rushed in alone, killing layer after layer of demons. He only had 1 breath left, but still risked his life moving forward. Until he finally entered the main hall of the demon palace. When he saw me, I was obediently lying in Weion's arms. Weiong was feeding me a grape with his hand, and he grabbed it right when I was about to turn around. Weion immediately hugged me, burying my face in his shoulder, preventing me from seeing who was coming. He sat on the throne, one hand squeezing my waist, the corners of his lips curled up slightly, full of provocation. Lamb Tram, what are you doing here? Lamb Tram stepped up, his face pale, his eyes full of blood. He tried to blink, staring at me, his voice trembling. I've come to take my wife home. Weiong smiled coldly. Your wife? He raised his eyebrows, his eyes full of sarcasm. Lamb Tram, have you forgotten? Your crown prince is that Tratin girl. Who did you come to my demon world to steal back? Lamb Tram gritted his teeth, his eyes never leaving me. Gritting his voice, he asked, Nin Swang, don't you have anything to say to me? I stood up from Weion's lap and slowly looked towards Lamb Tram. Weion immediately frowned at me, his childish tone full of jealousy. Nin Swang, you can't look at him. I couldn't help but laugh inside. This petty name. But when I turned to look at Lamb Tram, I didn't have the slightest wavering. My eyes were calm and scary. Do I have something to tell you? Lamb Tram tightened the sword in his hand. There were wounds on his body, bloodstains from demons, and also his own bloodstains. The injuries were serious, but all those wounds were not as painful as his heart right now. He said hoarsely, Nin Duong, we have been together for thousands of years. Yet you married Weion. These words make me laugh. Laugh until it hurts. Laugh until it's bitter. You shouldn't ask me this question. You should ask yourself. Lamb Tram, we've been together for thousands of years, but you married a Tra-Tin woman. Lamb Tram's face was pale. He bowed his head. His voice was as sweet as silence. His body was weak. His fairy power was too small. I just want to protect her. As if trying to convince himself, he continued to mutter. Nguyen is not as strong as you. I only helped her a little, but I don't love her. I clapped my hands and sarcastically said, Lamb Tram, you are truly a good person. You should not be a god of war, but should be a meritorious Tien. Weion smirked, bowed his head and gently kissed my cheek. Duk Duk Tien is a god who specializes in blessing the human world. Anyone who prays will be helped. She was very sarcastic, but Lamb Tram seemed not to hear. Cold eyes, harsh voice. Who gave you permission to touch her? Weion curled his lips, deliberately lifted my chin, smiled provocatively. What if I just keep touching? Nin Swang is the wife that I married properly. Not only did we kiss, but everything we should and shouldn't do has already been done. When Lamb Tram heard that, his face immediately turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Unexpectedly, the war god Lamb Tram, who had never lost a battle in the immortal world, who was always admired by people, would have such a difficult day like this. He opened his mouth, his voice trembling as if trying to retain the last bit of dignity. Nin Swang, can you follow me home? He begged me. He didn't look moved at all. His voice was gentle but firm. Lamb Tram, since the day you married Lu Nguyen, we have no way back. Lamb Tram panicked, reached out his hand, his voice urgent. But Nguyen and I are only married to Dao Lu in name. Now I have broken up with her. Nin Swang, in my heart there is only you alone. I looked at him, my eyes calm and unwavering, and softly asked, if I give you a chance now, what will you do? Lamb Tram was stunned. What do you mean? I slowly walked down from Weion's arms, step by step walked to Lamb Tram, standing one step higher than him, looking from above. My voice was gentle but sharp as a knife. If you kill Lu Nguyen, I will follow you. Behind me, Weion was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Ning Swang. Lamb Tram stood rooted to the spot, unable to believe I said such words. He choked. Are you this cruel? Without wavering, I coldly asked, do you dare? Can you bear it? Can you do it? Lamb Tram took a deep breath, trying to steady his mind. Nguyen is the person we rescued together. How could you treat her like that? His voice lowered, carrying compromise. Nin Swang, follow me home. I will take Nu Yin to Tianjia so that she can be a fairy for the heavenly world. Is that okay? A coldness spread throughout my body. It's funny, Lam Tram, even at this moment, still wants to find a way to protect Lu Nu Yin. He never understood. I've never really loved either. Me. Even after reaching this point, you still don't dare to give up on her. For my sake, I took a step back, my voice without any emotion. I won't go back with you. Lam Tram suddenly raised his head, intending to reach out and hold my shirt, but I retreated too quickly. He could only hold it in the air. I said faintly, actually, Lu Nu Yin is very good. Such a weak girl. You should protect her well. Don't let her be bullied by anyone else. My words are full of sarcasm. Then, he stopped slightly and turned his head to look at Wei On. I added, as for me, I should be with the person who loves me and is also the person I love. Wei On immediately stood up, so happy that he almost hugged me and spun me around. Sister Nin Swang, you just said you love me. He was so happy that his eyes lit up, looking like a small puppy wagging its tail. I was hugged tightly by him, feeling his trembling because of his extreme happiness. My heart suddenly felt light. All the damage caused by Lam Tram at this moment disappeared. I wrapped my arms around his neck, gently bent down, and placed a kiss on his lips. Wei On was stunned, then turned his head to look at Lam Tram, curled his lips provocatively. You can go. I'm happy today. I won't make any calculations with you. Lam Tram was not willing, still trying to blink at me. Wei On, will you put your neck down? Nin Swang, have you forgotten all about our past? Have you forgotten how many lives and deaths we have gone through together, crawled out from the sea of wax together, and won many battles together? I quietly pulled up my sleeve to reveal my smooth, scar-free arm. I said softly, Lam Tram, the best scar treatment medicine only takes 3 months to find. But you never found it for me. You talk about our past, but have you ever thought about it? Everything we have is because I sacrificed for you. Do you really love me? Or do you just not want to lose a fool who paid everything for you? Even though you're so selfish, you're actually quite compatible with Lu like Yin. My words made Lam Tram's whole body tremble. His eyes were bloodshot, staring at Wei On. He has been arrogant since childhood, never admitting mistakes. He gritted his teeth and said, Wei Ying, do you dare to fight me? If you lose, you must return Nin Swang to me. Wei On raised his eyebrows, slightly curled his lips and smirked. So what if I win? Lam Tram gritted his teeth. My life is up to you. Wei On suddenly retracted his smile. His voice was cold. I don't need your life. If I win, I want you to kneel in front of Nin Swang, bow your head, and admit your mistake. From now on, never appear in front of her again. Lam Tram pulled out his sword and pointed it straight at Wei On, inviting him. The battle lasted 1 day and 1 night. The entire demon world was engulfed in darkness. The 2 leaders of the 2 strongest forces, one war god, one demon lord, no one is willing to give in to the other. Immortal force and demon energy collided violently, spreading aftershocks that almost destroyed the entire demon world. Not only heaven and earth observed this battle, but powerful figures from the 6 worlds also came to witness. When I stand next to Tianjia, I see both Lu and Yin. She bit her lip tightly, her eyes looking nervously and fearfully at Lam Tram. In the sky, 2 silhouettes were divided between winners and losers, fighting fiercely. Finally, a figure fell to the ground. The person who fell was Lam Tram. As for Wei On, even though his body was covered in wounds, he was still the last person standing. He staggered towards me, reached out to hug me, his voice carrying a bit of coddling. Sister, it hurts. Lam Tram bullied me. I know he's acting like a spoiled brat, but I still can't help but feel sad. I quickly used my luck to help him heal, and at the same time scolded, Why do you care about Lam Tram? Could it be that if you lose, will you really give me to him? Wei On coldly snorted. His tone was scoundrel. How can I lose to you? You're not my thing. How can I use you as a pole? I was just looking for an excuse to beat him. I laughed and teased him. Is Demon Venerable still so pure? In the distance, Lam Tram fell to the ground and tried many times to stand up. Lu Nu Yin's eyes turned red and she rushed to help him. But this time, Lam Tram did not give her a chance. He coldly pushed her away, his face full of disgust. Get away. Lu Nu Yin was stunned and looked at him aggrievedly. Husband. Lam Tram limped up and walked towards Tien diameter. All around, those who came to watch the excitement all understood what was going on. Someone laughed and mocked. This elf is really good, seducing the war god Lam Tram to the point of abandoning the person who shared the same suffering with him. It is said that Lu Nu Yin could not become an immortal because Lam Tram used the elixir to force her to ascend. Yet even for some medicine to treat Nin Xuang's scars, he refused to find it. I don't know if it's in love or unintentional. I heard that Lam Tram and Lu like Yin have already dispelled the cult, like it's child's play. No, it's because in the past heaven and earth chose people to get along with the demon world. Lu Nu Yin was afraid of being chosen by them, so he quickly pulled Lam Tram into a relationship. Haha, really funny. Even if I had to choose the fairy to get along with, it would not be her turn, someone who is neither a fairy nor a human. Even the fact that Demon Lord Wei On personally requested Nin Xuang, she turned into her own matter. Really thick face. Lu Nu Yin heard the taunts around her. Her face turned pale, her lips trembled. She pitifully cried out, Lam Tram. But Lam Tram never turned back. He gritted his teeth, staggered, and finally collapsed to the ground. I turned to look at Wei On and frowned slightly. Why is he suddenly so cold towards Lu like Yin? Wei On bowed his head, leaned close to my ear, and whispered smugly, I don't like Lam Tram, but I hate that Tra-Tin girl even more. I just told him a small thing. Lu Nu Yin already knew that my Ma Tun specifically wanted to get along with her. She kept this a secret, deceiving Lam Tram from the beginning. Everything from the moment she clung to Lam Tram, then let him help her become a fairy, and then forced him to marry her, was all a conspiracy. Even the red thread between her and Lam Tram was cut off by her and shined on her. Otherwise, why would Lam Tram seem insane and stupid enough to do everything for her? I laughed softly and pinched his cheek. You are truly a diabolical devil. Wei On was pleased. I just don't like others bullying you. He lowered his voice, his eyes flashing dangerously. If I don't take action, do you think I will leave Tra-Tin alone? If you don't kill her, I will help you do it too. Lam Tram knelt before Tien Da and bowed his head in apology. Tien Da sighed. Considering that Lam Tram had fought for the immortal realm for many years, he was exempted from the death penalty, only imprisoned in the immortal realm for 100 years as a threat. Tien Da's eyes coldly glanced at Lu Nu Yin. The tone was like dealing with an antworm. Lu Nu Yin was not originally on the right path to become an immortal. Now he has abandoned the immortality and filled the human world. Lam Tram did not object. When he was taken back to the fairy world, he didn't turn around to look at me. Maybe because his heart was full of love, but I had already let go. Tien Da looked at me. His secret voice echoed in my head. Peace between the fairy and demon worlds. Everything depends on you. I nodded slightly. Wei On quickly noticed the difference. He immediately asked, what did that old Tien Da say to you? I narrowed my eyes and smiled to deliberately tease him. He wishes that you and I will soon have a son. Wei On's face immediately turned red. He stuttered and pulled my hand back to the palace. So do you like boys or girls? I laughed out loud. Wei, why are you so naive? From then on, Lam Tram and I went our separate ways. Later, I heard that he once got drunk and rushed to burn all the red silk in Noyet Lao's palace. He also personally cut the red thread between himself and Lu Nu Yin. When he sobered up, he was determined to walk the path of no love and become a god of war without emotional attachments. As for Lu Nu Yin, after falling to the human world, he lost all his immortal energy and could not cultivate immortality again. She wandered to Tan Lao, becoming a goblin who specialized in absorbing men's positive energy to maintain her life. Until one day, Lam Tram descended to Earth to eliminate demons and meet her again. Without hesitation, he swung his sword and cut her to death with one blow. From then on, the world no longer had Lu Nu Yin. As for me, in the future we will have a little princess with Wei On. Wei Ying is no longer the terrifying and evil demon lord like in the legend, but a husband who is always attached to me, a husband who pampers his daughter to the heavens. He is always by my side and never leaves my side.